Right, class. If you missed, if you're getting this video as a suggested video, then it means that you've missed something that had to do with a frequency table. So it might mean you've made a mistake with calculating frequencies or relative frequencies or cumulative frequencies, or even maybe just a rounding mistake or a format mistake. So definitely make sure that you pay attention to, you know, what kind of rounding that it's asking for, or what kind of format, if it wants decimals or percentages, and if it wants decimals, how many places to round to. I mean, that's just something you're going to always have to be careful about. Otherwise, you may get a problem that already gives you the frequencies. Like, let's suppose I already know that this is like 3, 4, 6, 2, and 5, for example. Well, if I already know that, and that's all it gives me, and then let's suppose it's asking me for relative frequencies, then the first thing that I would do is just add up my frequencies. So we've got 7, 13, 14, 15, we've got 20. Then to calculate these relative frequencies, you're going to take each frequency, like the first one is a 3 for the A's, and you're going to divide it by the total frequency. That's why I needed to get that total. So 3 over 20, and when you take a calculator, you just do 3 divided by 20, put the 3 in the calculator first, and you would get 0.15. But since you see the percent sign, and in MSL it might be like a box and then a percent sign, then you're going to need to change that to a percent by going 2 places over, and we would put 15% there. Similarly, you would go do the 4 for the B's, 4 divided by 20, put that in the calculator, and you would get 0.20, which is 20%. 6 divided by 20, which is 0.30 or 30%. 2 divided by 20. So each time I'm just taking a frequency and putting it over this total frequency. So 2 divided by 20 is 0.10 or 10%. And then the last one is 5 over 20, which is 0.25 or 25%. Now, what should happen if you've done this correctly is, if the relative frequencies are percentages, they should add up to 100%. So we're going to check that. 15 and 20 is 35. 35 and 30 is 65, 75, and then 75 and 25 makes sense, okay, for 100%. That's how you would get relative frequencies if it was just a problem that wanted you to do that. Now, on the other hand, and these are also things to think about depending on what question you missed. Another question wanted to know what kind of numbers things were. So your frequencies have to be whole numbers because they represent the number of times this letter grade occurred. So 3 people got an A, 4 people got a B, 6 people got a C, 2 people got a D, and 5 people got an F. They have to be whole numbers. Relative frequencies, on the other hand, can either be fractions and preferably simplified, or decimals. Remember, we had gotten the 0.15 here before we changed it, or percents. So relative frequencies are, typically going to be fractions, decimals, or percentages. That will also be possibly a question that you could have missed if you got this video as your recommended video. Then another question. So let's just suppose I erase all this stuff. Another question, let's see, may actually ask you to fill in this whole, oops, I didn't want it to erase everything. All right, so another question may give you like letter grades, like it may have some A's listed, and I believe it's going to already be sorted for you. So A's, B's, C's, whatever. If it's already sorted, it makes it so much easier. And then D's and F's. All right, if that's the case, you are going to need to calculate the frequencies yourself. They're not going to be given, obviously, but that's just counting how many times something occurs. So like, especially if they're sorted, this is easy. The A's, there are 4. So you would put a 4 for the frequency. The B's, there are 2. The C's, there are 3. The D's, there are 2. And the F's, there are 3. Then add those numbers up. What do we have? 14, I think. And you can check it by making sure there are 14 letter grades. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. It's always good to double check these kind of things when you're having to, just do a lot of counting and stuff in your head. All right, so that's 14. It seems to agree. We just went over how to calculate the relative frequencies. So I'm going to actually skip over that just to save time in the video. But now I'm going to show you how to get cumulative frequencies. With cumulative frequencies, you actually take the first frequency, and the first frequency will be your first cumulative. But cumulative means, think of it as piling up, continuing to add up. So you then take the 4 that you got first here, add the 2 for the next category, and that gives you a total of 6. 6 plus the 3 gives you a total of 9. 9 plus the 2 gives you a total of 11. And 11 plus the 3 gives you a total of 14. And that last cumulative frequency should agree with the total. So just like the fact that frequencies have to be whole numbers, the cumulative frequencies also have to be whole numbers, and the last cumulative frequency has to be the same value as the total frequency right there. So that's another one that you might have missed if you were getting this particular video. And then another one that you might have missed, all of these involve frequency tables, so I just lumped them into the same video. Another one you might have missed will be one, and this is also would be good to review the seminars if you missed this one. It's the one that maybe gives you some letter grades and will ask you to just, no E's. All right, A, B, C, D, F. It will have frequencies, and then it will have relative frequencies. No cumulatives on this one. But it will just have like boxes in certain places, like a box, and you got to fill in the missing boxes. Maybe this is like 8 and 4 and a total. And maybe the total is like 40. And maybe a box, but with a percent sign. 12%. And maybe it wants us to fill in this and this. And let's see. Oh yeah, these, I'm not lining it up very well. I'm not lining it up very well. Let's put a box there. Sorry. This goes there. This goes there. The 40 goes with the total. Sorry about that. And this goes there. So I think now I've got the boxes where they're matching up. All right. And then maybe they also give you like this is, say, let's just do 15%. All right. So you got to fill in the missing boxes. Well, it's like filling in a puzzle in the sense that you know, if any of y'all have done Sudoku or something like that, or even crossword puzzles, you kind of have to wind your way through the puzzle and find where you know things first and start with those areas and work your way to things where you didn't know stuff. So you cannot start with the A's because you don't know anything about the A's. So what I might do there is go ahead and actually start down here at the total, realizing that since the relative frequencies are in percentages, that this has to be 100%. Then, since I already know that F frequency was 4 and it was out of a total of 40, I can just go ahead and do 4 divided by 40. And I can go ahead then in my calculator. Remember, earlier in this video, we've talked about how to get relative frequencies. Well, that's just 0.1, but as a percent, you got to move the decimal and get 10%. So I'll put a 10 there. Similarly, I already know the D's was 8 for the frequency divided by 40 people again. So 8 divided by 40 is going to be 0.2 or 20%. Again, move the decimal 2 places and you get 20%. So I would do that. And then I actually want to notice that I know all of the percentages now except for the A percentage. So if I add up these and get, let's see, 10, 20 is 30, 45, 55, 57% for those, then I can take the total 100% minus the 57% and realize that the A's must be the remaining 43% there. Because once I have percentages, the way I can fill in the frequencies is just take the percentages of the total number of people. So like for the C's, I know 15% got C's. So I can take 15%, 0.15, I change it back to a decimal, times 40 people, that was the total number of people. And when I take 15% times 40 people, I realize that 6 people got C's. When I take 12, the 12% times the 40 people, then I get 4.8, and this is where me just making up numbers off the top of my head is not going to make it come out evenly, because as we know, frequencies need to be whole numbers. But hopefully that is enough to give you the gist of what you're doing. You would just take 12% of 40, and you would take then 43% of 40. But of course, you would get on your actual problem, you would get that these come out to be whole numbers because they're representing frequencies, and frequencies have to be whole numbers. It is simply because I made up these numbers quickly off the top of my head to make finish the video that they didn't turn out nicely. But that's all you would do to fill in these remaining boxes here is just take the percentages that you already know times the 40 people. And you should be able to complete your table. That should actually, if you got this as a recommended video, it's got to be one of those, I think it was like maybe 3 or 4 questions on the quiz that involved some sort of frequency table that might have had either relative frequencies or cumulatives or maybe all of the above. So hopefully that'll be enough to help you be able to get that question right.